Hello and welcome. This is Bhuvan Unhelkar, your tutor. I hope you're not forgetting a nice cup of tea. Well, it is tea for me. Could be coffee, juice, water, a glass of red wine. I want you to relax and let your brain soak up what we are discussing in this particular lecture. This is lecture 5. So if you have reached this far, you and I are progressing quite well together. So what I'm going to discuss is the same extension of identifying and modeling requirements. As you know, in the previous lecture we discussed how to document functional requirements. In a typical banking application, we have use cases like customer withdraws cash or customer deposits cash or identifies herself. There are many such functional requirements that we discussed in the previous lecture. In today's discussion, we are going to talk about how those requirements can be captured and used when the process that we are following within our development or within our organization overall is agile. You will come across the word agile and agility a lot more, if not already. Everyone is talking about agility, and the way I understand it, agility is the ability of an organization or of a project or of a piece of software system to respond to changes in external circumstances as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Obviously, as great business analysts, we are concerned with agility. We are interested in agility. But the word agile itself and these suite of methods called agile methods have not come about recently and have not come originally through business management or business analysis. As far back as 1995, there was a paper presented at UPSLA conference in Austin in Texas on Scrum, which is a software agile method. With waterfall life cycle, with formal methods, iterations and increments, we find that sometimes projects get bogged down into those methods, and the key stakeholder, the end users, don't see any output for a long time. So agile methods came through as a response to this heavyweight or planned or traditional or waterfall life cycle. And it has become very important because instead of focusing on models and documentation only, agile methods like Scrum, like extreme programming, also called XP, Crystal, Lean, APM, AUP, FDD, test driven design, TDD, DSDM, and so on. You don't need to know them all. In fact, you may not need to know any of them in the context of this particular course. But the chances are that the moment you start working as a business analyst in real life, you will come across Agile. Agile as a method, Agile when it is lifted up at organizational level, it becomes organizational value. Now, the whole Agile movement is based on what is known as Agile Manifesto. And Agile Manifesto is a set of 4 statements, value statements. And anything and everything that complies with this value statement is called Agile. So, the way I have experienced agility is that instead of saying a certain actions or certain criteria has more importance or precedence over another, the way I have seen it and the way I would like to restate it is that it should be in balance. For example, the first of the 4 statements of Agile Manifesto says that individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That means the interactions between individuals in a project will be given more importance, precedence over processes that are to be followed and tools to be used. I find in large projects, tools play an equally important role, and so do processes. Which activities are to be performed, in what sequence they are to be performed, who is going to perform them, the roles. So I prefer to restate this particular statement based on my experience as we will give importance to individuals and interactions together with processes and tools. And similarly, the other 3 statements, I interpret them as follows. We'll give importance to working software and to comprehensive documentation. We will give importance to customer collaboration together with contract negotiation. And we will respond to change together with having a plan and following a plan. There is very little opportunity in my understanding and experience where we can give importance to one set of these criteria over other. It doesn't seem to work in large projects. So that is the way agility has come about. Agile methods that I mentioned became very popular, and as business analysts there is definitely a need to play our part, to practice our competencies, our skills, and influence projects that are agile. You will find that I have given some examples of proper formal business analysis competencies and how they are used and provide value in a method like Scrum, in an agile method like Scrum. So for example, you can bring in requirement prioritization, you can bring in functional documentation of requirements, you can do scoping, you can do testing, acceptance testing, you can apply principles of usability, and so on. Many of these activities and tasks and techniques that have been a part of traditional or formal or planned methods where BAs were basically doing requirements modeling also apply in agile projects. So for example, in case of Scrum, when you deal with the product backlog, when you deal with the sprint, so the sprint backlog, and whenever you are involved in planning and scoping, you will be using your business analysis skills and competencies within those projects. I have put respective articles there. One in particular by Adriana Beale is absolutely worth reading, where she has argued for why we need business analysis in a formal sense within agile projects. Now, with agile projects, one of the things that has happened is the entire organizational culture has changed. So we can't really say that our software development project will be agile, but the rest of the organization will remain as it is. So there have come about agile values, for example, collaboration, trust, honesty, transparency, courage, and so on. Now, I personally believe that these are values that any organization needs at any time, whether it is agile or not. But of course, we give importance to the fact that these values have come about through the agile movement, through the agile software movement, but now it applies to the entire organization. So when we start dealing with a project in an agile manner, in an organization that is following agile methods, many a times you will find that use cases are not done, or those detailed activity graphs are not done. Instead, user stories are used, and user stories are written on a simple 3 by 5 inch card like this. So you can write as many user stories as you like, and I'm about to show you how to write them. And then you can put glue tack on this and stick it on a wall. So all agile projects within an agile organization tend to use walls. And so there are common jokes like we are running out of walls and so on. But you put these cards up and you trace them. You make them move from being in planning and scoping, in action and completed. Of course, due to the agile movement, sticky notes have become very popular as well. You can use different colored notes. In my projects, I have used different colored notes. Each of them contain a user story or an action item, and we put them on a wall so that all the things that have been residing in our brains are actually available on the wall. So you can see the project, the visibility is high, and that has tremendous value. So in terms of requirements, and this is a very important function, although not the only function of a business analyst. How do we write a user story? So what we do is have a look at it. This is a bit difficult to read, I know, because it is all reversed, and I'm not a left-handed person, I'm a right-handed person. But you can see the major function which can be treated as equivalent of a package or a group of use cases or a full use case diagram. I'm mapping the agile user story based approach in some way to the planned approach or the traditional approach or the use case based approach. So within that function you will have many user stories and you can identify them. So you can say this is user story 101, and it starts with as a, whatever is the role, as a customer, as a teller, as a branch manager, as an auditor, as a high-end customer, as a insurance customer, whatever it is for that financial institution or that bank. As a customer. I want. What is my goal? Remember the actors in the previous lecture? Each of those actors have a goal. And each use case is supposed to satisfy that goal or a suite of goals, for which we will have more use cases. I want to specify details. So this is the process, mini process if you like. I want to specify that as a customer, I want to specify the details so that I can withdraw cash. So the process to achieve the goal. So together I want to do certain action so that I am able to withdraw cash. I want to provide my login details so that I could be verified, or I want to specify the account and the amount so that I can deposit cash. And you may want to do that sort of practice for whatever domain you are working on. A bit of admin like author and priority, because we can have user stories with different priorities. I would suggest with high and low and not go through too many set of priorities. And if we have to write that user story for say hospital management system, then the function would be say patient management, patient admin, and you would start with as a whatever is the role, patient. I want to provide Medicare details so that I can register as a patient. I am providing Medicare details. I am providing whatever administrative details so that I can register as a patient. And whosoever has written this user story. And I am actually going to encourage you to try and write these user stories in a similar format, but not necessarily the same, because based on your experience you may want to do it differently, write them slightly differently. So that is what will happen when you start practicing your requirements gathering, requirements modeling competencies within an agile project. You will have to then put these user stories up, prioritize them, change them, and move them. So that's the first part of this lecture. And like me, please have a sip. Now the other important thing I want to talk with you about in this particular lecture is that you will be also required to focus on the usability aspect of whatever you are doing. If you are developing a software system, you have to worry about its usability. If you are simply putting together procedures or processes within the organization, you have to worry about its usability. If you are dealing with physical infrastructure or enterprise architecture, you have to worry about its usability. And usability domain itself is now absolutely important, because in most cases the customer is coming to you, to your organization, through that user interface. So the kind of experience that the customer gets by coming to you through the system, mostly through a web application or through a mobile device, you will find that increasingly such a device is going to be crucial in the way your organization relates to the customer. I can do my banking here, I can check my newspapers here, I can play games, and I can find out more about medical situations. I can do so many things. And each of those organizations have to have business analysts like you and me who are able to understand what is a good user experience. I am increasingly finding that there are job roles, job titles called user experience analyst, which is a variation of a business analyst who is focusing his or her skills, analytical skills, to understand the interface. Now, although we say that the interfaces are through web pages, XML pages, through dedicated screens, but as we progress further, increasingly you will find there are different variations to these interfaces. In fact, different interfaces. IVR, interactive voice recognition. It's already quite common for us to pick up our landline and be able to talk to a system. There could be other means. There could be visual means of recognition. There are so many different ways in which the experience of a user can be tailored, can be enhanced, can be measured, can be optimized, and you are going to do that. So, some of the known principles of usability can be handy. And my friend Larry Constantine, professor, who originally authored Structured System Analysis and Design Methods together with Ed Jordan, has done a lot of work along with his wife Lucy Lockwood. And their website is foruse.com, and they have put together in a very nice way the great law of usability and the slightly lesser law of usability. And more or less, the great law of usability says that the system shall be usable intuitively to a user who knows the domain, who knows the problem domain, but not the system itself. So if I know the rules and regulations and policies governing how customer is going to withdraw cash in my bank, then the system knowledge is not required. That is, the software system knowledge is not required, or in other way should be gained intuitively. So a user who knows a domain should be helped, should be supported by the system. And then as I grow in experience and I become an expert user who is not only an expert in the domain but also now in the system, then the system should not hinder my work. So what it really means is you can't have a static usability applied to your system. The system has to be dynamic. The system has to grow. The system has to change. So sometimes you will find you need to provide tooltips and colored combinations and drop-down list for someone who is using the system for the first time, who is a novice, newbie. But as that person is becoming an expert in the system has to stop showing all these helps. Maybe the person can use keyboard. The person doesn't need the help that the system is giving. So the second law is that the usable system will not hinder the work of a expert user. And Larry Constantine has put together a suite of 7 principles. The system will support the user. The usability will be well structured. The start of any user experience will be based on simplicity rather than starting with complexity. Everything that the system has to offer should be visible, should be up there and not hidden away. There should be reuse in such a way that if I have followed a certain suite of keystrokes in accessing a particular function, that same suite of keystrokes should be available later as well. The system should give feedback to the user as and when required, and the system should not crash. That means it should be tolerant of errors, because the very starting point of usability is that the user will do errors, will not use the system the way it is meant to be used. So all these 7 principles need to be kept in mind when you do business analysis that is associated with user interfaces, with user experience. In fact, forgive me for only using the word user interfaces a few times. It should really be user experience overall. So I hope this has been of value to you. We're coming to the close. You can go to the seminar, check out the seminar. You will find all the details in it, and participate in the discussion forum. And remember, assignment. You will have got all the feedback that you needed. Remember, it has to be an original assignment. So don't copy and paste any figures from anywhere except the ones you have drawn. Reference everything and make sure it is related to your work, because remember, we are putting in effort here so that we can grow on the SFIA scale, which will also help you if you are planning to appear in exams or grow yourself in one of those other frameworks that I had mentioned earlier on. So take care, relax and enjoy the journey, stay motivated, and I'll see you in the seminar. Thank you.